wind tore across the desolate highway as the sun dipped low, staining the sky with deep streaks of orange and red. Dust swirled like ghosts around two tiny figures running barefoot along the deserted road, their dresses torn, their faces streaked with mud and tears. Behind them, a group of men stepped out from a gas station in the distant shadows. At first, then unmistakable silhouettes advancing with grim purpose. The little girls stumbled, clinging to each other, their cries swallowed by the empty silence of the plains. And that was the moment a lone biker, covered in tattoos and scars life had carved into him, spotted them. In an instant, everything changed. Before we go deeper into this emotional journey, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of stepping up when it matters most, your support brings these real, human stories to life. The biker's name was never important to most people who passed him on the road. He was just another tough man on a roaring machine, intimidating, distant, wrapped in leather and metal. But beneath that rugged exterior lived a man who had seen enough darkness to know it when it stared back at him. As he slowed his bike near the trembling children, he noticed the terror in their eyes, not the kind sparked by a fall or a scraped knee, but a deeper fear, the kind born from trust shattered and innocence stolen. He parked his bike and knelt beside them, lowering himself to their eye level to avoid frightening them further. The older of the two, though barely 6, stood protectively in front of her younger sister, gripping her hand with a fierce determination that no child should ever have to carry. Their breaths came in broken sobs, their tiny chests heaving as if the world had been chasing them for miles. He asked no questions at first. He simply offered safety, warmth in the form of his presence, and the silent promise that he would not let harm touch them again. But when he glanced up and saw the men approaching from the gas station, 4 of them, broad, stern, moving with intent, his body stiffened. Their vests, their expressions, the predatory certainty in their stride, told him everything he needed to know. These weren't men coming to help little girls. These were the reason the girls were running. The biker stood slowly, placing himself between the children and the approaching group. The road stretched endlessly in both directions. No cars, no houses, no witnesses except the dying sun and the rhythmic thrum of his motorcycle engine cooling behind him. The men shouted something, but he didn't hear it. The pounding of his heartbeat drowned out every syllable. All he could focus on was the trembling hands gripping the back of his vest, 2 fragile lives seeking safety they had never known. He wasn't a hero, far from it. He had lived years drifting between mistakes that still haunted him whenever he caught his reflection in a mirror. But in that moment, faced with 2 terrified children and the threat looming over them, he felt something he had long thought he'd lost: purpose. A reason to stand firm. A reason to fight for good instead of running from his past. The men tried to circle him slowly, like wolves studying their prey. He recognized the dynamic. He had been on both sides of it in his younger years. But this time, he planted his boots into the asphalt and didn't flinch. When one of them stepped too close, his hand instinctively curled into a fist. The girls whimpered behind him, and that sound alone became enough fuel to force him into a level of calm he had never known. He told the men the children were staying with him. He said it with a low voice, one that carried the weight of someone who would stand his ground no matter the cost. The men paused, exchanging looks that blended anger with hesitation. Maybe they sensed he wasn't bluffing. Maybe they realized that these girls were not going back with them. Whatever they saw, it made them reconsider their next move. And after a tense standoff that stretched like eternity, one of them spat on the ground, muttered something under his breath, and the group turned back toward the gas station. But the biker knew this wasn't over. He grabbed his phone with trembling hands and immediately called for help. As the sun dipped behind the hills, he led the girls to sit beside his motorcycle, offering them water and the comfort of his presence while they waited. The younger one leaned against him, her small fingers gripping his arm as if afraid he might disappear. The older one sat quietly, wiping her tears with the back of her dirty sleeve, trying to be brave in a world that had already stripped her of too much. When the authorities arrived, everything slowly unraveled. Truth spilled out. Stories of how the girls had been taken from a nearby county. They had run when they saw a chance. How fate had led them straight into the path of a biker who once thought the world had no place for him. The officers thanked him, but the real reward came when one of the little girls looked up at him with exhausted, grateful eyes. In that moment, he realized he hadn't just saved them. In a quiet, unexpected way, they had saved him too. In the days that followed, He found himself thinking about them constantly. He wondered if they were safe, if they were healing, if someone was tucking them into warm beds at night. He had always believed he wasn't the kind of man who could do good, but those two girls, broken, brave, beautiful in their innocence, had proven him wrong. He had changed their fate, but they had changed his heart. If this story has touched you, if it reminded you that heroes can come from the unlikeliest places, please like the video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to support more stories that celebrate humanity and courage. Before we end, comment below, do you believe small acts of bravery can create miracles? And as the night settled over that lonely highway where two little girls were saved, the biker rode off, once more not as a drifter or a forgotten man, but as a guardian, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, kindness can appear in the roar of an engine and the heart of a stranger willing to stop.